This is Caminantes, where you are invited behind the curtain of the 2021 Caminos Festival and into the creative minds of this year's Caminantes.
Think of this podcast as the theater lobby, where people can mingle and talk about the incredible art they're creating.
Coming out of COVID and everything else that's happened, I'm super curious, like what the new festival culture looks like.
That's what I found this time around. There were so many ideas.
You know, you can play tricks on people's eyeballs in the theater that the screen doesn't really let you do.
There's a real encouragement to think of creative solutions that then can become part of your artistic practice outside of the festival.
We are all different beings. We're so different, so different. And how do we maintain our differences and be able to live together and talk to each other?
In this episode, we'll hear 3 conversations with some of the incredible festival team that make Caminos happen. First, we'll hear from Aluna Theatre's artistic director, Beatriz Pizano. Let's get started.
I am Bea Pizano, and I am the artistic director of Aluna Theatre and the artistic director of CAMINOS. CAMINOS, my favorite festival.
And talking about how is your favorite festival, can you tell us a little bit about how did you curate the festival this year, being that it's a different type of year to have a festival?
I mean, the beautiful thing was that when we put the call out, what it made it accessible was to the rest of the country. We always do it across the country, right? And we can invite, but maybe that limits us to inviting one person, right? To bring them to Toronto. But this year was we can do it from anywhere. And so it's been really fabulous for us, also an opportunity to get to know people that we might not otherwise know that they even exist as artists, in smaller communities. What I want is something to be different, right? From most festivals of works in progress, I didn't want things to be play readings, right? That was not my focus. We are so excited about experimenting on our feet. I've been thinking a lot about collective creation. So much since in the last few days, what it means to create in that way. And I think Caminos, I can say, is kind of a collective creation of all these incredible artists bringing stuff. I mean, the difference this year is that we will be able to get the footage ahead of time. What I love about live Caminos is that we have no idea. We have curated things, but we have no idea what's going to happen until that night. So it is magical. And this year was, because it's digital, we were able to have 32 groups. With the pandemic, what was the best for us was being able to support artists. Oh my God. And not say you have to produce something. Just go here. There's a little bit of money. Go and dream. And if you need to sit by a lake and just think, that's being an artist, I hope that artists take it as a place to give themselves the space. It's just to be, and this is not a final product whatsoever. You can, the beautiful thing with these pieces in process is that you put something up now and you may look at it and go, oh, I don't want any of that, but something from that presentation clicks with you. Sometimes it's what I call finding the frame, how you frame something that you're trying to discover. But it is about what are you trying to discover and not to be afraid of that, I think it's intimidating because it's digital, right? So it's not like live. It's well, you didn't see it tonight, tomorrow is going to be different, right? I think the live performance on stage is something that no matter what is never going to die. That experience, you cannot replace it with anything. Many, many years ago, when I was at La Mama in Italy, and I can't remember names, so please don't ask me, but I was working with this incredible Israeli director, and she said something like, theater, the language in theater is changing because how we communicate is different. So having these monologues that go for 4 minutes, 10 minutes, they're not realistic. And we live in this medium that is fast, right? So I'm interested to see what is going to translate back to theater. I'm very excited about that. But I also respect also, and that's what excites me, the new generations. They have a vocabulary that is not mine, and that's life. That's how it is, and how they perceive the world, and the things that really move them to be artists. And so that's what excites me when I see Caminos. I go, oh, that's what they're excited about. That's really, it's beautiful. Whatever shape or form, if it is live, you are in communion with that audience. And it's that feeding back and forth, right? So you're still doing that, whatever shape and form you want to do it, right? But that's still the communication.
We know that this festival in particular this year is a mixture of online and in-person festival. So
yes.
Is there any surprises, or how was the process of approaching the artists to be, is digital or live?
Yeah, we gave them a choice, right? Like there's something that Sue Balint, our producer, always brings to the table, and it's like, when we're thinking is, what does the artist need? That's where we part from, like ask them, not us imposing on them. So, and also for me, because I go, we are in these times that if I'm walking by a window and I see 1 second, that's all I need. I don't need to stand there and but if you get that thing, it's like you don't have to stay there for the whole duration. I think that's what the beauty of art is. If something catches your attention and you just turn, and continue your day, but you have an image now in your head. And for me, that's, as we hopefully will move more away from this such a capitalist model of art making in these countries, is art is that, that's what we offer. So that's why when I say I love Caminos, that's why, because you really see the audiences and the artists really, really talking to each other. It's not precious. Nothing is precious. You go to a big theater where you pay $100. No, it's not precious. The audience is your partner. It's not your business transaction.
And we wanted to ask if there's any memorable experience that sticks out to you from a previous festival, like any good stories you have, something that you remember.
Because that's the communion. When Rosa was presenting Marine Life, right? And there's mariachi songs and that, and suddenly the audience started singing, right? Mm. And then the week after, I gave a lecture at York, and one of the students was very upset that, that he couldn't hear what was going on because people were singing and laughing and that. And I went, oh, that is performance, right? So, and when I heard more than half of the theater singing the rancheras, I went, this is, there've been many, many things, but that one really stuck with me. Mm-hmm. And that's the thing, the different cultures, right? And that's, my God, you guys are asking me a lot of things I've been thinking is about. Again, for me, the obsessive question nowadays is, how do we live together? Like really, maybe accepting is not the word, but we are all different beings. We're so different. And how do we maintain our differences and be able to live together and talk to each other?
That was Artistic Director Beatriz Pizano. Next, we'll hear from Aluna's artistic producer and designer extraordinaire, Trevor Schwellnus, and Caminos Festival and Aluna Theatre producer, Sue Balint.
Hello, my name is Sue Balint, and I am the festival producer for Caminos, and I've been around for a couple of years doing that, and also year-round at Aluna producing things.
My name is Trevor Schwellnus. I'm the artistic producer at Aluna Theatre.
Quite comically, Trevor, and I don't know if I've ever told you this, I saw you, I don't know if you saw me, probably the 2012 festival. I was living on Roncesvalles at the time, and I saw you maybe a day or two before opening, stumbling like a crazy man into the LCBO.
As producers do.
And you had the look of like, I'm producing a festival. I have 24 hours. I need to go buy the alcohol now because I don't have anyone who's running a bar. I'm doing everything on my own. And I thought to myself, that man is within 24 to 48 hours from opening a festival.
Well, I got a question. Like, Sue, you work at Caminos and the Rutas festivals, and you've also been working at Summerworks and Progress.
With Sagachuk.
And with of course, with Sagachuk. Oh, how could I forget? And so, what do you see an ecology forming that kind of is a coherent culture of festivals?
Well, it's a great question, and I think like in this moment more than anyone in the past, coming out of COVID and everything else that's happened, I'm super curious, like what the new festival culture looks like, and I mean that in terms of the considerations around touring and international versus local, and how we move in the world and communicate with each other. But I really hope that ultimately we can embrace a whole new set of opportunities what have we learned in terms of collaboration, what worked better for festivals when we were. But I'll give you an example with Sagachuk, and actually I was having this conversation earlier this week when it kind of just dawned on me that every festival that I've done during COVID, which is 2 summer works now. We're doing CAMINOS right now, heading into the second with Sagachuk. They've all been development festivals. They've all been work in progress festivals. What I learned about all these development festivals is so many things we were able to support the artists better. And the resources we could place instead of travel, hotel, per diem, like all that money that was getting allocated in another direction, we could support more artists. And we could also ask that like lovely question that I really love with development festivals. What is it that you need in this moment? What can we do for you? We're a company, we have resources. As an independent artist, like dream big. We'll say no if we can't do it, but for example, I'm working on a script. Who is that dream person who happens to live like on the other side of Turtle Island right now? You can have them as your dramaturg because we can afford it, because we're all on Zoom anyway. Text-based work works really well. The collaborations that we were able to form and the matchmaking we were able to do was like super satisfying.
Trevor, what do you see the opportunities are in this hybrid performance festival model?
Well, I think it's shaken up. What's happening is we're getting a new set of video literacies developing, and kind of how people see and understand something in front of their face on a screen is changing in a different way. And those things have an effect. And primarily I'm a designer, that's the stuff I think about a lot. I am a little bit worried that what design means has shifted, kind of on the level of everything working on a screen is not the same as everything working on a big screen, or live is just, it's just so different. And it's refreshing when, I'm still letting people into the studio and I see them starting to work and I just want to sit in the corner and watch them because there's a body in space and somebody's turning a light on and oh my goodness, he put a gel color in there in the first one. So it's like all that stuff is going to come back in a big crashing rush when we are able to, if we are able to, how we are able to. And it just doesn't, the retina doesn't take it in the same way. You can play tricks on people's eyeballs in the theater that the screen doesn't really let you do.
I was wondering, talking about all of this, how did you curate this Caminos this year compared to past years?
Okay, I can tell you a couple of things that were different. So the COVID thing, we had a full year where we couldn't produce anything, so we took all that money and put it into a big pot. Instead of producing a show, we took a show's worth of money and made residencies for a whole bunch of people. And that gave us, that kept, creative juices flowing. I'm not sure how much of a support it was. A couple $1,000 here, a couple $1,000 there is not going to dramatically change your life, but the encouragement to keep working, I think, and a little bit of real support is, can resonate in really strong ways with somebody, especially if they're not sure what they're doing. So they can just, okay, I'll just do this.
I think there was a beautiful realization that I think happened in the culmination of those residencies, which, Trevor, I forget when it was, maybe last spring, when we actually brought everyone back to do approximately 20-30 minute sharing on Zoom with each other. And it ended up being almost like an internally curated 2-day event for all of us to share together on Zoom. And I think, for me, I think that's when internally we had kind of a festival team realization. That was the best festival that I had seen during COVID. That 2-day Zoom sharing was better than any other Zoom experience that I had, and it was just raw and honest and work in progress, and really exciting to see what those artists could, to imagine what those artists could do next if we level up a little bit further and say, okay, you're all part of Caminos now as well.
That's one reason why I kind of don't ever want these festivals to kind of disappear, because they're not only about showcasing work, they're not about, and it's not a catalog of talented things to send around the world. It's all about that stuff, but it's also a group of people talking about the world they're in right now and how they see it, and how different ways of reflecting it that can inspire audiences and other artists. So I don't think this sort of stuff, we got to make sure we keep something like this going, because it's so important.
Is there a memorable experience that sticks out to you from a previous Caminos festival? Any good stories?
I remember that early Camino, was it 2017 when we did Marine Life? Was it 2017?
Yeah.
And there was this moment where that group wanted to use big blocks of ice. So we had blocks of ice on the stage in the Yaqui, and we had to get a fresh set for every show from some delivery. And anyway, and so we had to actually make a big tray of huge pool liner to hold the water, because you don't want to flood that floor. There was a lot of paranoia about that. And it was actually this great magic. It was a beautiful thing to watch. Nobody wanted to produce a show with ice after that. We learned the hard way, right? But like there's at one point where one of the actors puts a little pill bottle on top of the block of ice, because he's contemplating terrible things, and he's on medication. There's a whole very interesting tragic character, but the bottle started moving and sliding down the block of ice, and so suddenly and this guy had so much presence, he just let it go. He just stared at it, and so the whole audience was with him staring, watching this bottle of ice. That show actually was also the one time we had a small audience incident, or a set of complaints, because the audience was clapping and singing along to the songs too much. Somebody thought the audience should be more placid and controlled in their response, and I thought that was just, anyway, it was the best moment for us. And the other thing I miss a lot is the bar afterwards. When we had the Solo Othello, the Maori group came up, and they came in after their show, and there was this, the music was playing, there was a band, there were kids running around, there was food, and they were like, it's just like home. After the show, we want food and family and people and kids. It's like they were that was like, oh, okay, there's something going across here. And that's one of the things I miss. The performances, I miss a lot of things, but like the after party is always like a thing in your life in that period, and it makes it worth all those trips to the LCBO, etc.
And that was from Aluna's core team, Trevor Schwellnus and Sue Balint. Next, we'll hear from two members of the Caminos production team, Charissa Wilcox and Rebecca Vandevelde.
I'm Charissa Wilcox, and believe my title is production manager, so sometimes the technical director titleship is kind of between Rebecca, Trevor, and myself.
I'm Rebecca Vandevelde. I am a member of the production team. Yeah, some years I have a more specific role. There was one year where I was the lighting coordinator, and I managed the lighting hang and focus for Caminos. But this year, because each individual team was kind of working independently, Charissa and Trevor built a team of people that they could kind of deploy as needed. So rather than having a specific assigned role, I'm kind of supporting technical needs for the companies and preparing to be deployed as necessary, kind of thing.
And I think because of COVID and being at this festival being online, it took a bit of a shake up for what we want to do and what our strengths are.
Yeah, everyone's working so independently that we wanted to be able to kind of fit the need, like fulfill the needs of each team, but not totally overwhelm everyone, because it's actually many more projects than usual.
Okay, so Rebecca and Charissa, what opportunities are you seeing in this hybrid performance festival, which is so new, so different than previous years?
I love Aluna. I love Caminos and Rutas as a festival. I find it so inspiring anyway, and creative and stuff. It's interesting to see how people are kind of trying to make what would have been traditional live theater as we know it and try to put it into a film or videography of some sort to kind of not lose the theater-esque of it.
I've done video projection work, which includes some of these technologies, but fitting something into a broadcast format is just totally different. Even from like a lighting design perspective, the way that light shows up on camera is totally different than the way that it shows up in real life. So I know the couple of shows that I've been able to support with some lighting work, I've been really challenged to translate something that will look totally different on camera. The process of getting ready for a live show is a lot of everyone in the room all the time rehearsing, and then you step back and the performance happens. And the filming method, as someone who's never really had the opportunity to work on film sets, you're kind of always in tech at all times. The whole process of recording is tech. There's no like we rehearse and then we record and then we perform. Like the performance part and the tech part kind of all happen simultaneously. So there's a really chaotic energy to trying to film something that is unsettling and exciting, but is a totally different challenge. Like you can stop and change your angle to get exactly the perfect moment, the perfect shot, or you can get stuck trying to get that perfect shot for an entire day. So it's just an entirely different approach to what the produced final art looks like.
For people who might not know what is to be on a technical team, what is the journey from like meeting the artist to opening day?
Well, my day, like a typical day is not very, that's a funny thing because it can change from day to day. But I mean, as a general thing, it's production manager usually deals with like scheduling and budgeting and contacting the artists to see just to kind of get some conversations going. I mean, this one was a bit different because we were sort of, because it's a work in progress, so it seems like it's a bit more of a, not hands-on is the wrong word, but more of a supportive energy. Aluna is always that way anyway, but so helping them get the studio time or technical support, whether they need like lighting. And this time around too, Rebecca did this fancy Google form. So we got a bunch of, so then usually we're prepping the tech writers and then we send that out and then the artists kind of like fill it in as best they can. And then from there, and then we go from there. And then we usually meet a bunch of times and get them to kind of
fill it out.
Or focus on one idea, not like a million. That's what I found this time around. There were so many ideas, and it's awesome because they have so many ideas, but it's just, so Rebecca and I's job is to help facilitate that to come to life, basically.
And I think that's one of the things that makes Caminos and Rutas very special. So much about Caminos is about tailoring the festival to the art that's in the festival. It's not about here, do you fit in our festival? It's how can we make our festival fit the artists that we want to work with this year? And I think that's why Charissa and I in particular are so drawn to getting to work with Aluna on this kind of project, because it is less certain. There is less of a typical day. You don't know what you're necessarily going to be asked to do, but it is very much about finding a team of people that can support whatever the artists need. It's a completely unique festival every year. And some of the structure carries over, but that also means that you can't just replicate. There's no template. There's no standard way of working. The only thing that stays the same in previous years was we were usually at the ACI and working with Native Earth Performing Arts. And even this year, like that's all new because we're broadcasting. So much about this year is unique for this festival, and so much about this festival is unique in the way that festivals work. It's work in development, so a new discovery could be made the day of the show. So there have been a couple of times where Charissa and I are getting ready to do someone's tech rehearsal, and they've just realized that they need this specific thing. So Charissa will get in her truck and be like, okay, I know exactly where to get that. I called the person, I'll go find it. And I've said, oh, okay, I understand that you want it to be programmed this way. I'll help you like figure out your lighting or whatever. I have a lot of memories of like, oh, actually, we figured out if we just move it over here and do it this way, we can support your discovery and adapt. So, and being able to do that while also directing like a large team of people who are used to doing work in a very different way can be very challenging.
You're artists. How do your practice play into the roles on the production team?
These are festivals that play to your strengths at being extremely adaptable and flexible, and working with artists that are outside of traditional theater. Like the fact that you're we're presenting cabaret, we're presenting dance, we're presenting movement, performance art, comedy, like, and that's something I think Charissa in particular has a lot of experience just like working with all kinds of artists that don't necessarily have the support of being traditionally considered an artist or being programmed in a theater festival, quote unquote. Like,
thanks. That's real nice of you to say. Thanks, Rebecca.
You treat everyone in the room as an artist. You're comfortable with working, like, you're not going to look down on a like burlesque performer and say what you're doing isn't art. You're going to say what you're doing is beautiful art, and I'm going to make it look professional and support your vision. Yeah. And so I don't know, that's kind of my outside view of.
Well, thanks. I feel very much the same way about you. Like, you are very supportive and want to make sure that the artists feel good about themselves and about their pieces, and make sure they look good and that they have the right stuff, and they're not like, I find you're very calm and supportive and think outside the box too.
And I think for both of us, it's a festival that challenges us to like, we already have the understanding of being adaptable and supportive, but challenges us to not just think of like the way you would do this in a theater. Like there's a real encouragement to think of creative solutions that then like can become part of your artistic practice outside of the festival.
I feel Trevor's the same way too. Like, he very much promotes like supporting the work and supporting the artist versus whatever's the easiest or the cheapest. There's always a good.
Yeah, it's not about, oh, I've done something like this before, I know how to do it. It's like, what will work in this moment for this particular situation.
And that was Charissa Wilcox and Rebecca Vandevelde. All these theater makers are a vital part of what makes this festival great. And right now, the Caminos Multi-Arts Festival is open. Come join us.
This year, Caminos is presenting the art of 32 groups, both live and online, from October 12th through the 24th. Go to caminos.ca for more on how to see this show and to support this artist. Y gracias a Benies Guerra and New Tradition Music for the theme song.
We are speaking to you from the shores of this beautiful Zagaigan, known to some as Lake Ontario, in Toronto, or Dagarondo. This is the ancestral territory of the Haudenosaunee, or Longhouse Confederacy, the Anishinaabeg Nation, the Wendat, and the Mississaugas of the Credit. This land is covered by the Dish with One Spoon Wampum and Treaty 13, also known as the Toronto Purchase.
At Aluna, we remember that people can begin to heal when they are hurt. We are committed to artful participation in disagreements. We are committed to unsettling ourselves towards connection, respect, and justice for all people who now live in this city, which has been a meeting place since time immemorial.
Radio Aluna Theatre is produced by Aluna Theatre with support from the Toronto Arts Council, the Ontario Arts Council, the Canada Council for the Arts, the Department of Canadian Heritage, and TD Bank.
Aluna Theatre is Beatriz Pizano and Trevor Schwellnus with Sue Balint. Radio Aluna Theatre is produced by Mónica Garrido and Camila Díaz Varela. For more about Aluna Theatre, visit us at alunatheatre.ca, follow at Aluna Theatre on Twitter or Instagram, or like us on Facebook.
Miigwech and Nyawangoa.